Okay, folks, I'm back after the holidays and all the cookie making. It's the new year, and I want to make challah bread. It's an enriched bread, which means basically any bread where you add something that is not flour, salt, and water, or yeast. In this case, it's eggs and butter and honey. And also I'm going to add some wheat germ for flavor and I guess flavor. So I have here some water that is tepid, which means it's around 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of sugar. That will be the food for the yeast. I'm making 2 loaves, and the reason I'm making 2 loaves is because I want to let one go stale and make bread pudding with the enriched bread later on another day. So that's 4 teaspoons of sugar. Going to do 4 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of yeast, and I like it to go kind of over the top, and this is spread it over the top evenly, and this is how you prove that the yeast is alive. And it should take 10 minutes, or sorry, 5, no more than 5 minutes for it to go foamy. I always see it foaming. Put that aside. And in a slight inversion of normal bread making, but quite ingenious, I'm going to add boiling water. Let's get that boiling again to my mixing bowl. And to that, I'm going to add the butter. And it will melt, so I don't have to bother melting the butter beforehand. And I'll add eggs and honey to that. I'm using butter because you could use margarine for sure to make it kosher, but for the high holidays, but this isn't a high holiday, and therefore I'm going to use butter. Here's my boiling water. This is a 2/3 cup measure. The water is pretty important, but in the end you can always just add more flour if you find that there's too much liquidity. Too much liquid, sorry. And here we have 6 tablespoons of butter. Like I said, could be margarine. And that's gonna melt quite immediately. Oh, sorry, dinging the... I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is chugging along. I put 4 teaspoons of sugar. This is a quite rich dough. It's a very rich bread, and that's why people love it so much. I'm going to stop smacking my lips, my gums, and I'm going to add an unflavored oil. You can use soy oil or peanut oil. I'm using just a canola oil. Just an unflavored oil. That's 1, 2 tablespoons. I hope I have that right. 2 teaspoons of salt. Remember, note that I'm separating the yeast from the salt initially, because salt is a killer of yeast, but you absolutely need it for flavor. So there's 1 teaspoon and then a 2nd teaspoon. I'm going to then add, after that, remember there's oil in this tablespoon thingy. So I'm going to add 3. So there's oil in this, so I should be able to, that it should drop out nicely. Yeah, it did perfectly, almost. That's 1, that's 2. This is not herb, it's wildflower honey. I prefer to use dark honey, but like buckwheat honey, but because of agro-business in my area, our bees don't have access anymore, and I like to use local honey. Our bees no longer have access to clovers and no longer have access to buckwheat because our fields are turned over to soy GMO and corn GMO, and the cows are practically non-existent, so the bees can't make that honey. But I find that this wildflower honey to be very fragrant and delicious, so that should be good. What else am I missing? This is a little bit of an inversion. Normally you put your flour in and then you put in the melted butter and other elements. Let's make sure it's all melted. But I like this method because you don't need to have, the burners on. All you need to do is keep it all liquid, and then you add 5 cups of flour. So I'm going to, did I do the 2 teaspoons of salt? Yes, I did. Okay, and the honey. Then the room temperature eggs. I'm going to add 4 large room temperature eggs. 1, 2. I'm counting, but I can see them. It's always nice to count. 3, 4. The 5th one I'll use for the glazing. Well, it's not exactly called glazing, but you know what I mean. And I'll need a little whisk here. Get it all going. By this point, the boiling water will not cook the eggs. I've added enough ingredients to keep it just lukewarm, which should be around the temperature. Well, see, you can't tell the difference between the air and the liquid, so that's perfect for yeast. And check out the yeast. That proves that it's alive. And that's why you call it proving or proofing. So let's see, I think I might have missed some sugar involved. Yeah, 6 more tablespoons of sugar. So, this isn't your everyday kind of meal bread, food for meals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to that we're going to add 5 to 6 cups of, I just want to get this out of the way, of flour. But I like to mix it up. I like to mix it up between strong flour, which is bread flour, and all-purpose flour. So I will just blend this together a bit using the paddle attachment. When that's combined, I'm going to get all of my dry ingredients in a row here, and I'll be right back. Here we are. We got our flours, strong and all-purpose, and the wheat germ. I had wheat germ, 2/3 of a cup, but first we need to, you won't be able to see this, but you can see this, the foaming yeast. Just gonna add that all in. I'm gonna need my spatula if I can find it. You don't wanna waste. You wanna mix that all in. Everything here is now lukewarm and activated. Oh, and there's a lot of sugar left. We need that sugar to keep the yeast activated. It didn't dissolve because it wouldn't have in just half a cup of tepid water. Let's see what we got going on here. It's good enough. Mix that up. We got 2/3 of wheat germ, 2/3 a cup here. Wheat germ, I add this for color, flavor. It's also makes really kind of visual flex in the dough and is quite helpful. And then dividing up the 5 cups of flour is a little bit, it's not really that tricky. You know what I want to do though? I want to switch this out because I'm not going to need it on the board for 10 minutes. I have a machine, that's what machines are for. I'm just going to put the dough hook on. Whoosh. There we go. And then we're going to keep this going on low. It's not entirely mixed yet. I might turn it up a bit. Okay. I'm not really worried about clumps at this point because there's going to be a lot of mechanical action. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to do, it calls for 6. We usually use 5.5. So I'm going to do 3 of bread flour. This will give it some gluten to build. 1, 2. Actually, you know what? I think I'll just do 2. We'll see. It's not very humid out. I don't think we need at all. That's 2 of the bread flour. That'll just give it some elasticity so that when it rises, you get these beautiful hoofs in the braids. Then we got to do, that's 2, then we'll do 3. 1. 2, 3. And then the last one, which will come to make you, okay, 2, 3. This is the third, total of 5 cups flour. I can see that the dough is shaggy. Well, it's not even come to the shaggy part yet. What I'm going to do is see whether it's wet. And then you can add, the 6th cup is really just where you eyeball it. You don't need all 6 cups. And I can tell right now that I won't need it if I want to add a little more, don't forget this. Voila, voila, voila. How's the camera doing? Let's see. It's coming to a ball, and it is a little wet. You have to be patient. Here's some of extra of the hard flour. Yeah, it's kind of wet. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the hard flour. By the way, you can do this entirely with all-purpose flour. I have, and the results are great. I just like to experiment a little bit. It is bread after all. Okay, so I took, say, 1/3 of a cup, and I put that in there so that I can get this kind of consistency. And I'm reserving this. Remember, this is the 6th cup. I've only used a little. Let's get the camera in here so you can see. See how it's still sticking to the bottom? So I'll add a little more. I want it to come away from the bottom, and then I want to, like I said, this is only 1/3 of that 6th cup, but I think that's looking good. And I don't know what I'm doing with the camera, hold on. Yeah, I can tell that's no longer sticking. And then I'm going to let it, the recipe says knead for 10 minutes by hand, but I only need to knead it in the machine. Oh, there's lots of flour on top. Let's get that off. Do not try this at home with your fingers. The flour's forming a ball, and I'm going to let it knead for 5 minutes in the machine. It's getting sticky again, so I got another 1/3 of a cup. But this is actually a quite, it's full of honey, it's full of butter, full of eggs, so it's going to be a soft dough. So don't overdo it with the flour. I think I won't. Well, I'll leave some flour in here in case I need it. I'm gonna turn this off and just, because it's an enriched dough, it might need a little hand here to get fully mixed. It's very light, it's very pliable. It's not gonna be like standard dough. You don't want it to be. That's what makes it so good. Okay, put this back. I don't know how to do it. There we go. Oh dear. Okay. I'm gonna put the rest of that 1/3 in, and I'm gonna set the timer. Oh, well, that was an accident waiting to happen. Okay, so I'm just gonna push this down. Then I'm gonna let it knead. I'm pushing it down. The machine does a great job, but sometimes it needs a little help. I just want to get it all together. It's gonna be sticky. That's enough. I don't want any more flour. I put in 2/3 of a cup by now, and we're just gonna lock and load, baby. Anyway, so I'm gonna set the timer and let that knead itself for 5 minutes, and I'll be right back. Okay, I wasn't sure whether I would bother showing you this part, but the dough is going to be quite sticky. It's been kneading in the machine with the dough hook. See how it comes off? Pretty well. Not the same way a standard dough would. It's going to be sticky. That's just how it is. And what you want to do, you can tell that it's kneaded well because it doesn't spring back, but you still need to form it into a bowl. Into a ball, sorry, a bowl. It's in a bowl. It needs to come out. So, watch on. Okay, I got it. But it looks quite nice. It bounces back, but it's not supposed to bounce back at this stage. So I'm just going to turn it out onto my, well, I got a little bit too much flour here. Let's move some out of the way. We're just going to do it by hand, 2 rolls, and then put it in the greased bowl for an hour. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the heavy breast, but it's, oh yeah, but see how smooth it is already? It doesn't need much. It doesn't need much kneading. It doesn't need much at all. Look at that. It's like a smooth pillow. That's how I know it was kneaded enough. I'm gonna take the flour off because I also can tell from experience that I put almost the 6th cup of flour in, and even though it remained sticky in the bowl like that, it came out no problem, like a baby's bottom. Okay, so I don't actually have to knead that anymore. I just need to get my, hold on, my buttered bowl. As with even the pizza dough I showed you on another episode, put the smooth side down in the butter, and then turn it around, and then get your plastic wrap. At this stage, I'll probably turn the oven on, just to, you know, because it's winter and it's not really cold out, but it's not warm either. And we want this to rise for an hour, double in size. We're gonna cut it in half, and we're gonna braid each half and make beautiful challah. Be right back. Okay, folks, it's been just over an hour, and the dough has doubled in size. It won't get as huge as some of the doughs I've made before because it's enriched, to the extent that it's heavier and not possible for the yeast to expand by room temperature alone. But it is a beautiful dough, and it does have all the characteristics I would want. It has these speckles, which is due to the wheat germ I added. And we're just gonna plop that down. By heavy, I just mean relatively heavy. It's just enriched. And I'm going to cut this in half because I want to make 2 loaves. I'll start with one. This one appears to be larger. That happens. No big deal. I just want to put the plastic wrap back on that and get it out of the heat here. And then I'm going to I'm going to use my mental protractor. Remember school? And we're going to try to do 3 equal portions. I like rustic baking, and it doesn't actually matter how equal. If you were in a bakery, you would want to be doing this by weight. And then you're going to make a rope that's about 18 inches long. That's 1.5 feet. And I'm using gravity rather than rolling them. Okay, so let's just see what we got going on here. I just picked that camera. Sorry, folks. This one looks right. The other one doesn't. Okay, that's 17. That's 15. I just start out using the gravity method and then do a little flowering here, and then you can roll it out. Remember, it's stretchy hair. That's long and thin. Let's do this one. Now that's even longer and thinner. Let's do this one using gravity. I feel like we should start the braiding. I just dropped my measuring tape, but I can tell that they're quite great. So that one's 20, that one's 18, that one's 18. So let's turn the board around just for, oh yeah, cutting the camera. I'm going to use the center, and we're just going to do a braid. I also buttered 2 9-inch bread pans, standard bread pans. You could do them freeform, you know, like you see in lots of shops, where it starts with a small braid and gets larger and larger and goes to a smaller, or you could do them in round pans and make like a crown. But I just like the way these look, and it's the standard way I do it. So we're gonna just tap these down, use the longer one in the middle, and just do your plaiting one to, you know, try not to make, oh, how do you do it? Oh yeah, this one. Try not to waste time doing it. And I can see that I probably could have twisted this one better. Squeeze it down on both ends. It does look rather asymmetrical, which is totally fine. And we just throw it in a pan like that for the second rise. And then, this is something I haven't shown you before, but I encourage you to try, is to use some spray on this cling wrap. I'm using baking spray, but it doesn't have to be. And then this will rise for another hour until the bake, which only takes 30 minutes. So I'm going to do the second one. See how fast that was? I'm going to do the second one, and I'll get back to you in an hour. Thanks for watching. Here's another version with the second half, where I tucked both ends under before putting in the pan. I think they'll both turn out beautifully, but let's go. Okay. Ooh. Okay, well, then do the same with the spray. Oh, here we go. La 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 la. And let that rise for an hour, and we'll almost be done. Okay, friends, this is the stage we've all been waiting for. We've got the wonky fella, and we've got the symmetrical baby, and they've been rising for an hour. But the thing is that the timing isn't as important as the need for them to rise above. Let's see that. See, they have to rise above the lip. So if that didn't happen, you could let them rise another 20 minutes. And symmetrical baby maybe had less dough, but it's also above the lip. And I think the wonky baby looks just as good as the sort of traditional looking one. So we've got the oven heated to 350, preheated. And I have an egg yolk and a tablespoon of water. And the reason I'm using, to make the egg wash, and the reason I'm using not an entire egg with water is because we want these to be very deep brown, quite deep brown, and shiny. The entire egg version would be shiny, but I think using just the yolk makes them a little darker. So you gotta be very gentle, and you can see it's gonna stream down. I perhaps used the tablespoon, I measured it, but perhaps it's too much water. And there's really nothing you can do about that, because even though it will maybe make a little separate crust, it'll still be excellent. Perhaps my egg yolk wasn't as large. Anyway, so we're just gonna egg wash this. And I'm gonna try to get these little pots of water, of egg wash, down into the crevices so they don't pool up. And I'm trying to work quite quickly because I want to get these in the oven. We'll see. But I'm very happy with this rise and the look of them. The smoothness of the dough is gorgeous. I know there's honey and wheat germ in there, and it's very enriched and lovely. I got some albumin stuck here, but I want to make sure they have an even brownness on the top and an even shine. And I'm even gonna use my silicone brush here to steal some of it from the other pot. When they rise, they're not going to, the unexposed dough will become exposed, and that's just part of the charm. So let's just see here. We'll just see here. I have just a little more to do. I think that's really it. Then they'll go in the oven for 30 minutes, 35 minutes, but I'll be turning them at 15 minutes. I won't show that part, I'll just show you the finish. Oh wow, it's been just over half an hour. These things are looking amazing. That's symmetrical baby. I gave them names. That's wonky fella, or wonky baby. And the smell is like nothing else. I want to turn on the fan and turn them out, but first you gotta tell if they're done. And you hear that hollow kind of drum-like sound. I'd like to turn one out on camera, even though normally I would wait a few minutes. Let's just see how it goes. And then I'll take a photo. Oh, sorry friends. I'll take a photo when they're both out. Oh. Well, I don't need to wait. in this case is perfect. I'm going to do this one. Voila, voila. And that's 2 gorgeous loaves of challah. Let me see if I can get a better view. Voila, that's how you do it. It's quite late now and it's time to turn on the fans, cool them down, and for me to rest.